Chevron just pulled off the biggest middle finger in California history. 145 years in the state, helped build the entire oil industry, made California rich, and August 2024, packed up and left. Not quietly either. CEO Mike Wirth basically told California, "You're impossible to work with. Your policies are insane. We're done." Then moved the entire headquarters to Texas and took 2,000 jobs with them. 4 months later, California's refinery industry started collapsing exactly like Chevron predicted. Phillips 66 announced closure. Valero announced closure. 17% of the state's gas supply disappearing. Gas prices heading toward $8 per gallon. And California's government is standing there, shocked like they didn't cause this themselves. Here's what makes this absolutely wild. Chevron didn't leave because they were losing money. Richmond Refinery, profitable. El Segundo Refinery, profitable. The company was making billions in California. They left anyway. Why? Because California's government made it clear the future was going to be hell. More regulations, more taxes, more restrictions, more hostility toward fossil fuels. Chevron looked at the trajectory and said, "We're not waiting around to get destroyed. We're out." Texas Governor Greg Abbott was waiting with open arms, tweeted "Welcome home, Chevron," the second the announcement dropped. "Texas is your true home," he said. Houston mayor throwing parties. State officials bragging about stealing California's biggest energy company. And California? Silent. No counteroffer. No attempt to keep them. Just let them walk after nearly 150 years. The timing tells you everything. Chevron announces they're leaving August 2nd, 2024. 2 months later, Phillips 66 announces Los Angeles refinery, closing December 2025. 3 months after that, Valero announces Benicia closing April 2026. This isn't coincidence. This is cause and effect. Chevron leaving was the signal that California crossed a line. Other companies saw it and decided they're not sticking around either. Richmond, California almost learned this lesson the hardest way possible. November 2024 ballot measure tried adding massive new taxes on Chevron's Richmond refinery. 1,200 jobs at that facility. 240,000 barrels daily production. Millions in annual tax revenue. The ballot measure would have squeezed even more money out of Chevron on top of everything else California already charges them. Richmond voters aren't stupid. They saw Chevron headquarters leave, saw Phillips 66 announce closure, saw Valero planning shutdown, realized if they passed this tax increase, Chevron would close Richmond refinery too. Voted it down by huge margins, saved 1,200 jobs and their city's economy. But the fact that measure even made it to the ballot shows how insane California's gotten. Tax the refineries to death, then act surprised when they leave. Bay Area Council absolutely destroyed California politicians over Chevron leaving. Jim Wunderman, the council president, said chasing jobs and employers out of California is no way to run the economy. Explained exactly why Chevron left. Costs more money, more litigation risk, more HR risk, bunch of other factors. California created these conditions deliberately, made business impossible, then cries when businesses leave. Here's the part that should terrify every Californian. Chevron still operates 2 refineries in the state, Richmond and El Segundo. Combined, they process over 500,000 barrels daily. That's 25% of California's total refining capacity right now. If Chevron decides those refineries aren't worth the hassle, California loses another quarter of its gas supply instantly. $8 gas becomes $15 gas. Or you just can't get gas at all because there isn't any. Chevron keeps saying they're committed to California refinery operations, but they said they were committed to California headquarters too, right up until they announced they were leaving. Corporate speak means nothing. Actions matter. And the action was moving everything possible out of California as fast as possible. Headquarters gone, corporate functions gone, 2,000 employees eventually gone. How long before the refineries follow? Mike Wirth didn't hold back explaining California's problems. Said policies raise costs, hurt consumers, discourage investment. Not good for the economy, not good for consumers. Company fundamentally disagrees with California on energy policy and regulation. After 145 years, Chevron finally said out loud what everyone was thinking. California's government is actively hostile to the industry that fuels the state. Literally, the employee situation exposes California's real crisis. Chevron couldn't recruit anyone to move there anymore. Petroleum engineers making $200,000 said no thanks. Corporate executives offered promotions said, "We'll pass." Cost of living consumed their entire salary. Housing prices made home ownership fantasy. State taxes ate what little remained. Even Chevron money couldn't make California math work. Think about the implications. If highly paid engineers can't afford California, what chance do teachers have? Nurses? Police officers? Firefighters? Normal people with normal salaries? California became affordable only for tech millionaires and people who bought houses decades ago. Everyone else is struggling or leaving. Chevron's recruitment crisis is every California worker's reality. Texas made the contrast crystal clear. Greg Abbott welcomed Chevron publicly. Houston offered incentives. State officials promised reasonable regulations, business-friendly environment, lower costs, less litigation. Andy Walls said in Texas, their industry is welcome. Easy to walk across the street and talk to somebody you're doing business with because competitors and suppliers are all in Houston. California? Hostile. Isolated. Expensive. Impossible. The domino effect is accelerating. Chevron leaves August. Phillips 66 closes December. Valero closes April. What's next? Marathon Martinez Refinery struggling. Chevron Richmond facing constant pressure. PBF Energy Torrance dealing with California regulations. Every remaining refinery operator watching what happened to Chevron and asking themselves, are we next? Should we leave before we get pushed out? California's response has been pathetic. No plan to replace refining capacity. No plan to prevent shortages. No plan to keep prices affordable. Just vague promises about clean energy transition and hopes that somehow everything works out. Meanwhile, gas prices climbing, supply shrinking, imports increasing. The state is sleepwalking into energy crisis and pretending everything is fine. USC projections show $8 gas after these closures. Some scenarios, $10. California burns 2 million barrels of gasoline daily. Losing 300,000 barrels daily production means massive shortfall. Basic economics says prices explode when supply drops and demand stays constant. Not complicated math, but California's government apparently doesn't understand supply and demand. Carbob gasoline makes everything worse. California's special blend that almost nobody else produces. Can't import from Texas or Nevada. Doesn't meet California standards. Over 90% comes from California refineries. When those refineries close, the state depends on slow boats from Asia, 4-week shipping time minimum. If shortage hits suddenly, California is stuck waiting a month for relief, with prices doing whatever the market demands. Small businesses are panicking, landscaping companies budgeting for $8 gas, delivery services calculating if they can operate profitably, trucking companies considering relocation to Nevada or Arizona. Every business that requires driving is doing disaster planning. Some won't survive, many will leave. California's economy bleeds out slowly, while government pretends this is fine. Agriculture faces disaster. California grows more food than any state. All runs on diesel, tractors, harvesters, irrigation pumps, trucks. When diesel hits $8, $9, $10 per gallon, farming becomes unprofitable. Some crops won't get planted. Food prices explode. The state that feeds America might not be able to afford feeding itself. Airlines are already planning cuts. Jet fuel comes from same refineries. Less refining capacity means less jet fuel. Higher prices mean airlines reduce California routes. Tourism collapses. Business travel moves elsewhere. Conventions go to Vegas or Phoenix. Another economic hit California refuses to acknowledge. Chevron saw all this coming. Company leadership looked at California's trajectory and realized it was death spiral. Could either leave now on their own terms or wait and get forced out later after wasting billions on compliance. They chose to leave. History will prove they were right. 145 years, Chevron spent in California. Built the industry, employed thousands, paid billions in taxes, fueled the entire state's economy. California responded by making their business impossible, passing hostile regulations, raising costs, creating uncertainty, attacking the industry constantly, then acting shocked when Chevron finally left. Texas is laughing, took California's crown jewel, added thousands of high-paying jobs, strengthened Houston's position as energy capital, made California look weak and foolish. And California's government still doesn't understand what happened. Still pushing same policies that drove Chevron out, still attacking remaining refineries, still pretending clean energy transition fixes everything instantly. Chevron's exit was the warning. Phillips 66 and Valero closing proved the warning was accurate. More closures are coming, gas prices are spiking, shortages are next, economic damage is spreading. And California's leadership is doing absolutely nothing to stop it, just watching the industry collapse while talking about solar panels and wind turbines that can't fuel 2 million cars. This is what happens when ideology replaces reality, when government attacks the industries that make modern life possible, when politicians ignore economics and basic math. California chose this path. Chevron tried warning them, left when warnings were ignored. Now everyone who stays gets to live with the consequences. $8 gas, supply shortages, economic collapse, all completely predictable, all completely preventable, all completely California's fault.